All right, this is episode number 12 of the Sports Consiglieres Podcast. I'm your host, Jim Whalen. Alongside with me is the voice of Woodridge football, the Woodridge football girls soccer coach, husband, father of two, my co-host, my consigliere, Jerry Calla. And it's my pleasure to introduce our first guest, return guest to the show. Also, you can check out Midlife Crisis episode number 4. I think he said he was a Giants ticket holder since 1959. 45 years with the Mets, host of the Amazing Conversation podcast. You can find out on all your streaming. The author of Mr. Met, I have the book right here. And is also on the committee of the 100 New York Greatest Giants of all time. So that's why it's my pleasure to welcome back Jay Horowitz. Jay, you're on with Jimmy and Jerry. Thanks for the time, and thanks for being accommodating. I really appreciate it. So I think when we first met, I did an Alabama thing. You were this sports information director at FDU, and then you moved on to the Mets, and I guess you've been there for 45 years now.
1980.
Yeah. So, and then a couple of Met things. I think that they, welcome back to White Gooden back in April. I think that was a nice thing that the organization did, welcome them back into the fold, and also
Darryl in June too. Darryl.
And Darryl Strawberry, of course, everybody knows about the mid '80s, teams in 1986, obviously. And then there's one question: did you guys, when you were at the role at the Mets, did you have any influence with the Seinfeld episodes? Was anything coming along with that?
When his agent did that, Jerry's a big Mets fan. I think Jerry and Keith worked it out themselves. Roger McDowell was involved with that too. But I mean, Jerry used to come to the Met games. He and Keith befriended each other, and he invited him onto the show.
And I guess in the standings are about what's that?
He's still getting paid for this day, but every time it pops up, he says another check in the mail.
And the Mets, I mean, they're a half game back on the wild card, and I know they're offering a lot of ticket incentives for the teams, which are really, which is really advantageous. So, but I mean, thanks for coming on. Jerry, I know you're chomping at the bit to talk to Jay, so far away.
Hey, Jay, again, thanks for coming on. Very storied career, with the New York Mets. I mean, I actually, love the story about your first interview with Frank Cash and how you didn't think it went well. And then lo and behold, 40 plus years later, I guess it really did.
Yeah, I don't know. It's not my good looks, I can tell you that, guys.
Oh. The question I have for you is, how did it come about you getting on the committee for the 100th Greatest Giants?
Well, I'm good friends with Pat Hanlon, the PR guy with the Giants, and he recommended me. Pat's a big Met fan. We talked through the years, and his name got to Bob Papa, who was running the show, and I was fortunate. There's 12 of us who were on there. It was very, it was an interesting process. It was a passion of love. I've been a Giant fan. I've been going to games. I was at the Bears game in '56 when we beat the Bears 47-7. I was at the famous overtime game in '58 when the Colts won late on Alan Amici's touchdown. So Pat knew my passion for the Giants, knew I had knowledge, and he was nice enough to get me hooked up to get on the committee.
Now, go ahead,
Jerry. No, go ahead, Jerry. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, is on that committee, is this strictly for the 100 Giants? Again, you look at the committee. Where I'm going with my question, I'm sorry, is, for me, the Giants evoke so many memories. It's a good connection with my dad. I mean, growing up, nothing, time slowed down for us when, to watch the Giants, throughout my childhood. And I, share the same thing with my son now. In these committees, and we'll talk more about, certain members, but I was just curious because it's evoked good memories for me, as a longtime Giant fan. But I was just curious, you see some names, popping up, and, particularly guys from what they, as I mean, you lived them, unfortunately you lived through them. Was there any talk about, really trying to make sure that the wilderness years players were honored like the John Mendenhalls?
Well, John Mendenhall is on the list.
Right.
He's it was just we vote what we did. We voted independently, and then we compared the ballots. It was a consensus from the ballots, and at some point during the process, the Giants added names that were not on the list, but for us to vote for. So what we did, we just try to be fair, to take care of the eras. Like I don't remember. I honestly, I haven't seen the full list yet. I've been released on those videos, but I voted for guys like like Greg Larson, Bookie Bowling, Darryl Dest, Del Schaffner, Andy Robustelli, Rosie Greer. So my knowledge of the Giants goes back. I don't go to the 40s, but I go to the mid 50s. It was just we were told to vote your preference, and we would compare and get a consensus, and there we have it.
And then with like the voting, did you guys did you have any like pre-meetings, or like did you have like a Zoom call,
No,
or did you go over like Bob Papa's house, like potluck dinner?
No,
Like
we did it
how
by
did
Zoom. We did it by Zoom, and I actually voted. I didn't actually. I sent my stuff in, and then the other ballots came in, and I think if I remember correctly, we just put everything together, to get a consensus. We didn't meet in a restaurant. We didn't go to the stadium. It was all done in everybody's home, like that. So it wasn't done in one place. We just voted. We had we would, Bob would say, I need 125 by next Tuesday. Then it went over 1 through 25. We need 26 to 30 by a week from Wednesday. And they wanted to get it all done because they knew when they were going to release them in the summer. So we had a date when we had to have it all done.
And then you yourself, I guess I listened to your podcast with Harry Carson that was on, and then you have the podcast Amazing Conversations. I guess you said you've been a ticket holder since 1959. And kind of like what Jerry alluded to, like you used to go to the games with your father, and then after your father passed, you used to go to your game with your mother, and then you also went to the London game. So sports kind of like opened. The Giants kind of opened up, and I guess you've never been to Europe. But I was reading your book last night a little bit, and then it just seems like just much like I have a connection going to the games with my father, Jerry does. But just talk a little bit about, your connection with the Giants as far as a season ticket holder and your experience and memories that you have with the Giants.
Yeah, I actually went with my I remember going to the Packer Giant game when we lost 16-7. We played back-to-back years. In '63, Kittle was hurt. We got bloodied in Chicago, and we lost the game 16-7. Maybe it was 62 and 61. We got killed in Green Bay. I just great man. I mean, my father was a big fan. He went and he, Jim Lee Howell and Cal Rote. And he got me, and then I wound up buying season tickets with a friend of mine in 58, 59, cost me like $7. And I just been really going. It $7 a game, and then going. I didn't miss a home game until I started with the Mets in '80, and then I was forced to miss. Now I go to like 4 or 5 games, but it was I remember one game, the Giant Jet game, probably the '90s, where the Jets knocked the Giants out of the playoffs. I think Toon caught a touchdown at the end of the game, and I remember that game. I broke my wrist and my binoculars and my radio. I remember the Herm Edwards game in '76 when we beat the Eagles at the end, and for some reason Joe Pisarcik handed it off to Larry Zonka, and then they fumbled and ran it back for a touchdown. And then 19 guys got fired next day. But it was just I got to say I matured a little bit in age. I'm a passionate Giant fan, but maybe because I've been around professional sports enough, I don't go crazy like I used to. But I was pretty crazy when I was younger.
Well, listen, you lived through an era that you're lucky you only injured yourself once in the 1970s. So, I mean, it's funny. I mean, Jay, you'll be happy to know for my master's for one of my graduate school classes, I actually did. It was about organizational change, and I used how the Herm Edwards play single-handedly changed the Giant organization going forward. It really did.
McVay got fired right after
Yep.
the game. And the offensive coordinator was McVay was the head coach then. I forget. I mean,
McVay was the head coach.
Yeah, he didn't get fired to the end. The offensive, whoever the offensive coordinator, I forget, got fired.
Right. His first name, I'm drawing a blank. His first name was Bob. He has never, from what I remember, and you know better than me, he's never done an interview about the game.
Really? Well,
yes.
It was
one thing I know, my dad was a season ticket holder. It didn't matter if the Giants were getting creamed. He was at the Joe Pisarcik game, and they left early. Ever since then, we never left the game early. We sat until the clock went to 0.
I've been to all 4 Super Bowls. I've been to 2 with the New England, the one with Buffalo, one with what do you call it? With Denver. Right, so there's 2 in New England, Buffalo,
and Denver,
and then
Denver, and then they lost to Baltimore.
Yeah, Baltimore. Yeah, 34-7. I was at that game.
So Jay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
A lot of great memories, and I used to live and die. I used to be able to younger recite the numbers 1 through 78, 79, or Harlan Safari, Eric Barnes, Dick Lynch. Through the years of my job with the Mets, I've gotten to know Bill Parcells a little bit. He did a podcast with me. He's a big baseball guy. So, and Sean Liddell is a good friend. And like this year alone, I've done podcasts with Tiki Barber, Harry Carson, Phil Simms, and I just did one today actually with Howard Cross, which I'm going to play in November, because his kid's a starting nose tackle for Notre Dame.
Right.
And when they have games in the year, they play Army and Navy. So I'm just trying to expand my podcast, not just to be Mets orientated, to do some other interesting stuff. And I did stuff with Bob Pop. It was nice. It was nice to me, and I did something with him. So I guess people who listen to my podcast know I'm a Giant. I haven't done many Jets. Let's put it like that.
Well, neither have we. So we're both Giant fans. But did you find it harder? I guess the list is complete. And did you find it harder, 100 to 50 or 50 to 1?
No, like 80 to 100.
What's that?
1 to 50 were pretty. There was an overflow there, and we're just personal favorites. Like I made sure one of my favorites was Homer Jones was on the list. I made sure he was on the list. I voted for Tucker Fredericks. I don't remember whether he made it or not. I haven't seen the whole list, but I try to. Yeah, well, the quarterbacks are up high. Kittle, Manning, Eli. But no, as you got to the end, it was very subjective to a lot of. We could have gone to like 150. It was hard to fit in when you got to 100. I found the latter part was harder.
Jay, I think it's also telling with this list on how much pain we suffered as Giant fans that they have a punter at 47 and a punter at 53. So, which I thought were well-deserved spots on the list. I mean, Landetta was gold. He was always, money in the playoffs. But I mean, man, Dave Jennings was our biggest offensive weapon for so many years.
Yeah, he made it to the Pro Bowl a lot of years too. I think he was the only Giant used to make it to the Pro Bowl. So.
Dave died too young at an early age, No, it was good. It was a good list, and I like you said, because of my fandom, I was able to take care of the guy, the safeties and the guys from the 70s, Robistelli, Sparry, Huff, those kind of guys, and then when we got to the Chuck Messine era, it wasn't a whole lot of good stuff going on.
And who kind of made the tie? Was there a tiebreaker? A person? Was there somebody
was a consensus with us, 12 of us, whoever, we very few disagreements. We kind of agreed. I think they just compiled, what the consensus was and what we went with.
Now, Jay, shifting gears a little bit, what was it like working with? We're going to go back to the to your Met days. What was it like working with Shannon Ford?
Yeah, great person. She was a courageous woman, died too young because of cancer, 44 years old. Great baseball fan, a great mother. And she fought like hell to beat the disease, and unfortunately she did. But she knew her stuff. Players respected her. She wasn't intimidated by the big guys like Piazza, Todd Hundley, and Darryl and Doc. They treated her as an equal, and she was really a trailblazer for women's sports in the 90s. When I hired her out of St. John's, there wasn't really women PR in any of the sports, and she held her ground and wound up working all-star games, World Series, playoffs games. When she passed away in 2016, the office we had a memorial service here at Citi Field, and it's well over 1,000 people went. It was not anybody who ever had a disparaging word to say about it. She's a true professional, and she did her job the right way, and it had the respect of the front office, the players, the media, everybody. To this day, I miss her a lot.
Yeah, like you said, very sad story. I mean, I really, it was everything that I've ever read about her after her death and all the, tributes and everything. I mean, it did really touch me. I mean, how passionate and how emotional people, were really fond of her. I mean, it's a sad story.
Yeah. She wouldn't have an ego. All she ever wanted to do was help people. That's what she did her whole life. She was very charity oriented. She helped us in 2001 when we got through with 9/11. She was involved in the stuff we did at Ground Zero. He did a lot of stuff, various amount of charities, and always willing to help. And she helped indoctrinate David right to New York when David came up as a rookie in 2004. Shannon helped her get places to live, where to go eat. So she had, in fact, anybody who she came in touch with, she had a deep effect on.
And then with the podcast, like your podcast, I mean, do you like doing it? Is it something
Yeah, I
you
do.
like doing it? I mean, you're you've been established for a long time, but
I do what people I have an affinity with. I don't do notes. I can, BS stories like friends, with Turk Wendell and John Franco, Bobby V. All the guys I've worked with. I'm fortunate to have personal stories with each of them. We don't talk about stats. We talk about remembrance and, good times. But now, as I've did this for a couple of years, I want to kind of branch out. Originally, it was amazing Mets alumni conversation. We just changed it to amazing conversation so that I can do other things and go to other areas. Like, this year, I did a podcast with Jimmy Kimmel. I did something with Garth Brooks. Did something with Joe Buck. Just go into different areas. Man, there's so many different podcasts now. It's just really hard to compete. You got to just kind of branch out a little bit. That's what I've tried to do.
No, that's great. And I would expect going forward, particularly in the fall. I mean, do you have any other Giants laid out or scheduled?
Well, no, I did. I said I did Howard Cross today. I don't know. I might just take a break. I did all. I did Bob Papa. I did one with. I did a lot of Giants. I did something with Pat Hamlin. So I might. I might ease up just a little bit. I mean, yeah.
Did you watch any of the? If you watch any of the Hard Knocks episodes, the involved with you watching it, and what was your opinion of that? I mean, I know the Giants are kind of, that was kind of, Jesse Palmer got almost like ostracized for being the Bachelor, and then the Giants almost was like a secret society where they,
Yeah, it was interesting. I thought the stuff they I guess the Giants told the people that this is going to happen. So it wasn't much of a surprise to Barkley or his agent what was said. So I just think that it was. I think it's good to get people inside of what goes on, how you make a draft. I don't think any of it was earth shattering. Except they was out there. They were looking for quarterback, but I guess I'm sure they had to tell Daniel Jones something before they did. It wasn't a surprise to him. I'm sure they covered their butts in what they were doing. So when anything they said wasn't a complete surprise to anybody.
Yeah, I thought the podcast was great. I mean, the one impression that the one thing that they that I really took out of it and made an impression on me is it was clear that Joe Shane is in charge 100%. I really enjoyed the interactions with him and John Mara. I mean, John Mara lets his people, he's letting Joe Shane general manage, and it was really refreshing to see that.
I like the point where John Mara knocked on Joe's door instead of just walking in.
Yes, correct.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. We brought that up on another show because Jerry said, Jerry Jones not knocking on somebody's door.
No, definitely not.
So you did bargain what you could have. You just knocked on his door, which was, I just hope we get off to a good start. I'm Daniel Jones, stay healthy. I think the line is improved, and you get the first draft pick is banged up a little bit, but hopefully, we'll see what happens. We just gotta, get off to a good start and see what happens.
And then I know in the Harry Carson podcast, you talked about your memorable moments. Some of them actually are ironic, but some of mine. The LT interception on, on Thanksgiving. So what are some of your cherished moments that you had, and then what do you think are some of the games that they probably gave up that they
I was in Phoenix, Plexico Burris caught the touchdown pass right in front of me in the end zone. I remember seeing in Denver when Sims was in California when he was 22-25 against Denver. And I think Bavaro tipped the ball that
McConkey
caught. I remember in the Buffalo game, I was with my friend Charlie, and when Norwood went to kick the ball, I remember saying even if he misses it, we had a great year, which was a lie, and I couldn't tell whether the ball was right or left. You could tell. Just some of the Eagle games were killers. I hate the Sean Jackson with a passion.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and then
I remember when he on a one return when he was dancing around the end zone instead of going in.
And then of all the teams that Saquon Barkley to go to,
one game. One game against the 49ers. Yeah, I think we blew a big lead against the 49ers in one playoff game. We were
Jim Fossil was the coach. Yep.
Yeah,
it all went downhill when Strahan pointed to the scoreboard, taunting Terrell Owens in that game. Things went south quickly after that.
Yeah, but I won't remember the Victor Cruz game on Christmas Day when he went like 90+ yards to turn a year. So a lot of good memories, and it makes it good for me that I'm a big Giant fan. Pat Howman, the PR guy with the Giants, is a big Met fan, so we talk a lot and compare notes.
Nice.
Did you even go up to the Yale Bowl when the Giant Stadium was? You did. And how are the games there? Because were they well received? I mean, how are the games there?
2.5 hours every trip. I went to the old Yankee Stadium. I was in Section 17 in 1958 when Alan Amici ran towards us to win the game in overtime. I remember seeing Chuck Bednarik almost killed Frank Gifford in a punt return in Yankee Stadium. Remember one time Eric Barnes running kicks back. I was to the game when Y.A. Kittle threw 7 touchdown passes against the Eagles. So a lot of good stuff. Thanks to my dad and my mom, they taught me the right way, and I love sports, and I've been carrying on the tradition.
Now, Jay, now you said for the committee, for the 100 Greatest Giants committee, you guys did mostly Zoom. Jimmy is dying to know how funny it really is, Linda Cohn. I don't know.
Great. So we didn't speak to her personally. They would submit lists. You know what I mean? There was no verbal back and forth, but she's a diehard Giant fan. She's a big Mets fan too.
Which is odd because our generation seems like it's Yankees and Giants and Jets and Mets, just because of proximity.
Yeah.
Now
it's a big Giant fan.
Yeah.
I tell you what, she's done a great job in Sports Center. I mean, she's really survived time. With all the changes on ESPN. I mean, she's survived.
She knows her stuff too. She's a great sports fan, a great lady.
And I think she's hilarious too. She has a very, very pleasant way about her.
Yeah, she is. But looking forward to a good season. Hopefully, win the first home game against the Vikings, and we'll see what happens after that.
Well, the news came out today. J.J. McCarthy is done for the year. Possibly going to see Sam Darnold. So
that's a shame. It's get hurt. It's hate to see that with our quarterback, Daniel Jones, the neck and the knee, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So,
well, and I think the Giants did the right move, just building the lineup, around them. I think that was the right move for
no question.
For it. But is there any more events that they're having for the 100th anniversary? And
they're having something Friday night before the Viking game. I think it's open to season ticket holders. I'm not sure, and I think they're going to reveal most of the guys are going to be there this Sunday. In the first game, I think.
Yeah, and then like you said, and I listened to Harry Carson podcast. I mean, if people are listening to this, they should listen to that. 5,000 people don the uniform, and you're down to 100. So I mean, that's a big pool.
Yeah.
And then we didn't want to go into specifics who should be where, everything else. That's for the fans to kind of figure it out. But I mean, some of the players, like Tom Landry, I knew he was a coach. I really didn't realize that he played for the team as well. So
it was a defensive back, if I remember correctly.
Yep.
Yeah. And then and my dad is kind of like with your era. Like he wished you had Tom Landry, Vince Lombardi, and they kept Ali Sherman. So as the coach. So just I
remember the place overhead. Goodbye, Ali. 50 years, 10 years of lousy football with the Plains. I never booed once in any Giant game. Never once.
Yeah.
So it's funny, Jay. You said that. I got to be honest. The only time I ever booed was Ray Hanley's second year. That got to me. So
that wasn't a good year. That was
Well, you talk about. I don't think he ever spoke to the media after. I think he retired at Lake Tahoe, and that was it. So I mean, so
you talk about somebody that he vanished from the NFL after that.
He went underground.
Yeah. So Jay, I gotta ask you for a favor here. So my dad and I have this long time banter. My favorite all-time wide receiver is Amani Toomer, and he doesn't want to budge because he's a loyal Del Schaffner guy. So if you had to take one, who would you take?
Well, I like both of them. My all-time. This guy played multiple positions. Frank Gifford is probably number one for me. He's a running back and wide receiver, and and I love Del Schaffner, number 85. But I just something about Frank Gifford did so many different things, and punt return, and he was one of my top guys, as was Del Schaffner. But if he had to pick one, I would pick Frank Gifford.
Yeah, well, again, Frank Gifford, he was really ahead of his time. I mean, he was the first guy. I mean, he really kind of marketed himself off the field. He got into the media. I mean,
yeah.
And I thought he was absolutely excellent on Monday Night Football.
Yeah, he's a good man. Good man.
And then I guess the concussion really kind of shortened his career. So I mean he later, and plus he was a California boy coming to New York, so it was just like the fit was good for New York.
Yeah, that was a good Giant team. Good Giant team.
So now, Jay, as far as the we'll switch back to the Mets here. I'm a Yankee fan, but we have to appease our Met followers here. Who would you say is there any talk about retiring anybody else's number?
I know, yeah, they are, but I don't really want to get into it right now. The guys
Right.
out there, the obvious guys are, Jose Reyes, David Wright, down, probably right now, one of those guys. I nobody right now specifically right now.
Yeah, I would imagine the next one would be Wright. I mean, again, he's a true Met. Had a great career.
Yeah, and
Probably in my opinion, he's probably one of the most likable Mets.
I think you said
he's
what
a
is your
100% person than he is a player, and he's a 7-time All-Star.
Right.
And another person, injuries kind of cut his career
He would
short.
he would be on the road to the Hall of Fame and get all the injuries.
And plus, I mean, he was a good clubhouse guy. He was a good guy for the community. I think if you look at your podcast on Amazing Stories, I would encourage people to listen to that. Just you talk about Shannon. I guess David Wright called up his daughter after he passed. I mean, we went to cops' funerals and everything. It was a great person to showcase the franchise too.
Yeah, he's a good community guy, family guy. His father was a policeman, mother was a school teacher, so he was brought up the right way.
Yeah.
Well, listen, Jay, I mean, it's been an absolute honor for us to just have these few minutes to speak with us. I mean, it's been great.
Pleasure.
And thanks, Jay, for
anytime I can help.
Yeah, and I appreciate you. You've been accessible, and the thing is just like everything. And I could say, listen to that Bob Papa podcast. If you don't think this is important to the players, I guess listen to the Joe Morris interview at the end, where he was almost in tears that his fourth grade teacher said he would amount to nothing, and then he would never play pro football. And he goes, "Here I am in the Ring of Honor," and then being one of the top 100 players in the franchise. I mean, if anybody thinks that this 100 player doesn't mean something to the former players, I think they just listen to the last 5 minutes of Joe Morris and then the Bob Papa with Chris Snead.
Hopefully a good year for Joe. We deserve a good year this year. Hopefully this will be our year.
Yeah. Well, listen, Jay, keep in touch. I really appreciate your time. I really. Yeah, and definitely, and then I'll let you know as the Alabama saga continues. Yeah,
you got it. Very much. Thanks again.
This is episode number 12 of Sports Consiglieres. Check out Jay on his podcast. Check out the Mets, and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks, Jay, and
you all, guys.
have a good day, everyone.